having a digital flow of content that people can relate to and that give people the opportunity to make a phone call and get you a lead that you can help a customer and strengthen that relationship between you and that person. I think it's something that's necessary for every business, not even a roofing contractor, every business to have. And being on camera is one of those things that I had to develop. And I couldn't have done it any other way than putting myself out there on camera, analyzing the videos afterwards and say, hey, what can I do better?
You are in Memphis and your locals might have total different issues than someone who is in Florida. They are living in coastal areas of Florida. They will have to create different kind of content and you will have to create different kind of content. And the core behind that is defining your audience.
I am a copywriting geek. And I think that there's a lot of tools that are now available that weren't available in the past, like ChatGPT. Like a lot of times I'll sit there and I'll say, act as an Instagram expert that specializes in viral language and meta SEO, right? And I'll say this caption got me 25,000 views on Instagram, right? Is there any way that you could make it more viral worthy, right?
My personal belief is that this natural content or this organic content will become premium content for exclusive people, and the rest of the audience will be left for this AI generated content. And that is a kind of future where we are heading to.
What people are missing is that you can sit here and think that you're perfect, right? And everything you touch is gold, right? Everything that you do is great, but that's not the reality of the situation.
Welcome to the third episode of season 2 of the Roofing Millionaires Podcast, the only roofing podcast where we don't promote anyone and we don't sell you anything. In this episode, we are sitting down with Andrew Itnyre from Masters Roofing in Tennessee, and I don't want to prolong this introduction, but I want a promise from you before you watch or even listen to this episode. Promise me that you will think that you have at least paid $1,000 to listen to this conversation, because Andrew has shared almost all the secrets that helped him build such an influential presence online, and how you can build the same for your roofing business as well. Let's dive in. Why should a roofing contractor start content creation?
Well, they should have really started about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. You know, it's like even I sit there and criticize myself for not starting sooner. A digital brand is everything, and it's going to continue to be more and more a part of our society. And you're seeing it with, you know, just the way people communicate with each other anymore. The amount of real estate agents that I talk to on a weekly basis on Instagram, on Facebook, even some that are the age range between 45 to 60 years old are sending me referrals, you know, getting roofs, seeing if I could get roofs approved through the insurance process, or maybe they just have a customer that has a leak and they know I'm the expert that can solve it. But it's important that you're on these platforms, because at the end of the day, that's where people are. And mail is only getting more expensive. Door to door is difficult, but there's still people that are great at it. Don't get me wrong. If you're not busy, go door to door. But having a digital flow of content that people can relate to and that give people the opportunity to make a phone call and get you a lead that you can help a customer and strengthen that relationship between you and that person, I think it's something that's necessary for every business, not even a roofing contractor, every business to have.
You need content creation not only for sales but for connections as well, for new connections, because everyone is on social media. However, what I feel is that I see almost every single roofing company nowadays trying to build a social media presence. Like they are on Instagram, they are on Facebook, they are on LinkedIn as well, but they do not get the same attention and the same views and the same recognition that you have got. So what I feel about that is that they are doing pretty much basic stuff, like they are making designs on Canva and posting every single week randomly without any context. So what did you do differently to shine and to get the recognition that you have got?
Well, I think a lot of it was trial and error. And I think what people have to do is they have to be comfortable with posting daily. That's one thing when I started out, and I leave up my entire journey from start to finish. I don't delete any post from my past. So people can go back and see how bad it was at one point. But it's an evolution. It's not something that happens overnight. And some people are naturals, don't get me wrong. but you have to post every day and get your reps in. And so what I've done over time is I have paid attention to the data, the feedback I was getting from my community, and I found
Mhm.
out what content my community likes. And those were things that when I first organically were coming up with the ideas, I was just doing what I love to do. I started making videos, drone videos, or even on-site videos of the work being done because I just wanted to show off what our guys were capable of each and every day. And I got a massive feedback from people that said, "Hey man, I love how catchy your content is and how raw it is. And you can tell that you're doing it just for yourself. You don't care if you get any customers off of this." And they were 100% right. Like there's certain parts of my content that are authentically me and that I'm just
Mhm.
worried about putting it out because I love to do it, and a lot of that is the drone videos and the on-site videos where I'm sitting there behind the camera
Mhm.
documenting the experience that I'm providing for a homeowner or what's going on the job site. And with that, you get other roofing contractors that are watching and learning, right? You get home enthusiasts that are, they like watching HGTV or whatever the case is, and they're into it too. And then you just got people that see it for the first time and go, "Wow, I like this." But that's something that's always been a part of me. There's some parts that I had to develop over time. And being
Mhm.
on camera is one of those things that I had to develop. And I couldn't have done it any other way than putting myself out there on camera, analyzing the videos afterwards and say, "Hey, what can I do better?" When I first started speaking on camera, there was a lot of ums, there was no track, there was nowhere to go, there was no structure to how to hook people into what I'm talking about. And
Mhm.
over time, with the evolution of me as a content creator, it got better and better. And now it's to the point where when I speak, I get 5 to 7,000 people that will listen to me. I just had the other day a conversation with a contractor, and he said, "Man, I love how you talk about products." And he says, "I have to find out where you get this drip edge at because I need drip edge that provides critter protection too." And that's something I can present and provide to my homeowners. And one thing I want to make clear is that when you're sitting there and you're doing these product presentations on camera, it's
Mhm.
practice for inside of the home. You get what I mean?
Okay.
It's practice for inside of the home. So when I'm sitting there, I have an in-home presentation that I provide to homeowners, but when I'm
Mhm.
on camera, I can see what that presentation looks like. So when I go into the home, it's
Mhm.
rehearsed, it's proper, and I get to my points a little bit quicker. Instead of taking 3 minutes like it used to take me back in the day to sit there and present one product, now I can present it in 30 seconds. You get what I mean? And what that ends up doing is it takes an hour long presentation and shortens it to where I can do it in 15 to 20 minutes, still get my point across and still close the jobs.
A lot of the content creation depends upon what kind of people you are actually looking forward to target. Like, who is your ideal audience? Who are the people that you are trying to engage with your content? And do you feel that this is the point where many roofing contractors go wrong as well, because they are creating too generic content that isn't for anyone around them? Like, you are in Memphis and your locals might have total different issues than someone who is in Florida. They are living in coastal areas of Florida. They will have to create different kind of content, and you will have to create different kind of content. And the core behind that is defining your audience. So speaking of trial and errors, I feel you are someone who has that experience now and who knows how to avoid these mistakes. So if you feel that defining your audience is actually important, how can someone do that?
Honestly, I think putting out the content defines your audience, right? But the one thing that I think people lack in connecting with people on the other side of the camera is being able to authentically be themselves on camera, right? So
Mhm.
that's one thing. When I first started creating on camera, I wanted to build myself up as a character. And then it got to a point where the question itself was, am I authentically being me on camera? I would
Mhm.
go to the IRE and I would speak to other contractors and hang out with them after the expo, go to dinner and go out, in Vegas or whatever the case was. And the one thing that I got from people is you are completely different from what I see on camera. You're so much
Mhm.
more genuine. You're such a nice guy. And I'm just glad that I got to see this side of you, right?
Mhm.
That let me know that was a trigger to me is, hey, are you too polished? Are you authentically being yourself on camera? Are you allowing yourself to have fun too,
Mhm.
right? Because when it comes back to being relatable, when you're talking to people on camera, and I see it all the time in my own content, the rawer the content, the less polished it is, the better it tends to do, especially on Instagram. Now, I'm not saying that that same rule applies for LinkedIn or more professional, platforms, but on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the trend is raw, authentic content hits with people.
Mhm.
And if your content looks like everyone else's, it's easily scrolled through. That's what you got to remember. If your content looks like everyone else's, feels like everyone else's, there's no personal connection, it's
Mhm.
easily scrolled through. Therefore, you're not going to get the engagement you want. You're not going to connect with the audience you want. And you're going to make content that instead of gets 5 to 7, 10,000 views, you're going to make a piece of content that's super professional, but only gets 500.
When you realized that you don't have to be too much polished on the internet, what kind of content you were creating before this realization, and what is the thing that you specifically changed after this realization, so anyone who is watching or listening has more context about how they can change or upgrade their content as well?
Yeah, like I said, I'm very eclectic, I guess one would say, in my approaches, but I would say it goes back to the roof I vent videos and me,
Mhm.
smashing vents on camera and just kind of going wild and just, opening up that side of things. But I'm trying to think of a good example was we were at a roofing expo, Built
Mhm.
Show Live with the Luminail team, and I had a video get to 1.8 million people, and it's me and Mike Raines, and I just thought this room was so cool that we had to go into. It was a silent proof room. So you go from a loud audience outside to going into this room where you can only hear each other. And I videotaped that, wrote a good caption. I didn't think that it was going to get over 1 million views, but it did. And the reason why is because it was so raw and so just passing through the time. It was not rehearsed, not passing through, but it connected with people. And so that's a recent realization, but
Mhm.
I think more than anything, it's just understanding that you have to be creative, whether it's on site, bringing it back home to if you're a roofing contractor and you're trying to figure this out. Um, you have to be able to go on site and have real interactions rather than just sitting there and say, "Hey, I roof." You know what I mean? So showing people breaking custom metal, explaining the process, or next week I'm actually meeting with Enrique, who's our head guy, and I got
Mhm.
feedback from a contractor, and he has this really cool setup for a metal brake on his truck that he built himself. So next
Mhm.
week, I got feedback from a contractor. He said, "Man, I would really love you if you broke down your metal guy's setup." So next week, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to
Mhm.
have Enrique walk us through his metal brake setup. That stuff people finds interesting, and that's going to connect and get to the masses. Because if that one person asks me in a direct message about
Mhm.
that, then there's 15 others that want to see it too. And so I think it's going in depth rather than
Mhm.
saying surface level, right? If you're on a job site and you have a front right roof to wall that you're redoing in TPO, explaining that process and showing it how it's being done is what's going to connect with people. Just sitting there and saying, "Hey, listen, we got this roof approved through the insurance process. Give Jake a call and we can do the same thing for you." That's not connecting with people, right? You have to be able to sit there and provide a problem and solve it, or provide education and deliver on something that really changes that person's perspective and blows their mind. And that's the kind of content that will go viral and will get to a couple thousand people rather than just a few.
I agree with you. And I have seen that video, and I think that video is under 30 seconds, maybe. And nowhere
It's
in that
10.
video, you are not
It's
talking
10
about
seconds.
purchase these products. You are not talking about anything. You are just entering into the room. The conference has noise. And when you enter into that room, that is quiet. And that is totally quiet, pin drop silence. And
Can I take it a
then,
step further on this point?
yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I took that video, and this is where you get an inch, you take it, and you run a mile, right?
Mhm.
And so what I mean by that is I saw that video and how it reacted, and I told Mike Raines, who's the CEO of Luminail, I said, "Hey, we're going to RoofCon," and I said, "We're both getting a pair of Birkenstocks. Like, give
That
me
was
your
exactly my next
shorts."
question. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm getting a pair of Birkenstocks. I'm getting the same shorts that you have. We're wearing a Luminale shirt,
Mm,
and we're starting the Burke Bros. That's what we're going to call it. And we're going to go around to each individual attraction at
mm,
RoofCon, and we're just going to have fun and shoot content around it. And I think that we'll get the same result as that initial video. So it's taking an inch and running a mile, right? And that's what you have to do. And that thought process applies with any content. If you have a video and on
mm,
average you're getting 1,000 to 2,000 views on a video, but you post a video and it gets 10,000 views, it's
mm.
like, what did I do in that video that was different than all the other ones? You have to sit there and analyze and then take that information that you got back, that data, and execute it on it in the future.
And what is the impact of getting these thousands and millions of views? How do they impact your business?
The perfect example is a lot of those views came from because Facebook and Instagram are together. It's Meta, but so I ended up getting 3,000 followers off of that one video on Facebook, and the majority of them are roofing contractors, right? Roofing contractors are people in the industry. This is another great point to make. I've
Mm,
also posted about this was about 6 months ago. I posted about Josh Holly, and he was putting the insurance
yes,
companies on trial, and
yes.
those got millions and millions of views. But guess what? They didn't get me. They got me a bunch of followers, and I guess I'm thankful for that, but it wasn't my target audience, right? It
Mm,
wasn't roofers that followed me on those videos. It was people from all across the spectrum. So I
mm,
got probably 6,000 followers off of those videos, but
mm.
they're from all across the spectrum. It's not industry specific. You get what I mean? And I didn't like
Yes.
that totally. I would much rather post a video like I did with Mike, which is innocent, fun, it's 10 seconds long, and I get a result that I want. Like I want 3,000 followers that are roofing contractors, you know, because
Okay.
that's one of my many target audiences.
Yes, and I feel that that is the reason you should define your messaging when you are starting out. Let's just say I am a roofing contractor and I do not want millions of views or thousands of views. I just want 100 or 200 or 500 or a few thousand followers on my Instagram or on my Facebook. And those should be homeowners or the people around me. So they can see the type of work I do and they can become my customers later on. What should I do if I want to attract these kind of people that even give me the less views but have the potential of giving me more business in the future?
My recommendation for that is
Hmm.
what you do with the content after you post it, right?
Okay.
So a lot of people post a piece of content and it stops right there. One thing that I like to do is utilize Facebook groups to sit there and get more to my target audience, because the thing about Facebook groups is it's not the basic Facebook algorithm. What you're With the regular Facebook algorithm, you're competing with everyone, right? When you're competing in individual Facebook groups, you're competing against that own individual algorithm. So you're competing against everyone else who's posting in that group.
Hmm.
Make sense? So
Yes.
if
Hmm.
you post really good content in local Facebook groups in different neighborhoods, Collierville Talks Now, all these little individual Facebook groups as a contractor,
Hmm.
you're speaking to people directly in those areas that care about what's going on in that city, or at least that Facebook group. So that's one of the things I like to let people, or the people that I talk to privately, is like, hey, listen, if you're not getting the results you want locally, take that content and distribute it to local Facebook groups. And the catch 22 of that situation is that it can't be spam. It has to be something that's
Okay.
educational, that people can get value out of, or else it will get taken down. Because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, if you're promoting, one of the key rules of those groups is, hey, you can't self promote, right? But I can teach a homeowner how to clean out her gutters, right? I can sit there and tell her what to look for after a major storm rolled through. That's educating the audience rather than selling them. I can teach them about Drip Edge. I can teach them about these different products, right? But if you do that, you can get away
Hmm.
with posting in these local groups, which is extremely beneficial. I would say I probably get on average 8 to 9 leads a week just off of Facebook groups.
Once they are coming from Facebook group, it means they are already ready to convert. However, what if I have figured out my target audience and they are in Facebook groups and they are in local Facebook groups? I have joined those groups as well. But what I am doing is that I am just sharing my blog posts or the random stuff that my company's Facebook page posts. I am just resharing that into the groups without any context, without anything. And that is a sort of promotion that you have mentioned as well. But I do not spend time to look at all the posts in that group and figure out what can I do differently and how I can create my messaging in order to help these people. And how would I do this if I do not know? I need to spend my time in creating my messaging and my tone and my concept or the solutions that I have to offer. So what are the kind of questions or what are the things a roofing business owner should look in a group when he is about to post in that group, or he or she wants to be recognized in the group as a helper, not as a promoter?
Going back to the whole thing, if one person wants to see it, you got 15 others that want to see it too. It's the
Mhm,
same thing when you're going out to the house each and every day. The same questions that you're getting, the same leaks that you're seeing on a regular basis. Those are your base questions to sit there and promote to a certain group and to a certain area. So if I go out to the house and I see rotten windows, rotten wood around the windows is a significant problem in this
mhm,
area or this region, it would be a good idea to sit there and make a video on why that happens, what you can do to prevent it from happening, or just educating people on when it's time, how to notice it, identify the problem, and fix it with a proper contractor. Going back to it, I think the questions are constantly proposed inside of the home that I
mhm,
see where I'm sitting there, I'm educating, on certain products, and they'll bring up, hey, that's a great idea, or I absolutely love that. My cousin Daryl, he has critter issues all the time. I'm going to mention, if you do a good job for me, I'm going to mention to him to use you as a roofing contractor, And it's like Daryl, the cousin Daryl, is everyone else in that Facebook group too. So that's the thing. The questions get proposed in the house
mhm,
or on the job sites each and every day. It's our point to go out there and make content on those points, and they'll naturally resonate with people because what you're seeing inside of the house, what you're seeing at the house each and every day is the
mhm,
same problem that people are dealing with on social media too. All those people have the same problems. So I think it's recognizing what you're hearing,
mhm,
what people like, or what they're finding value out of, and then sitting there and going back to the drawing board at the end of the day and say, okay, Miss Jones had this problem. I
mhm.
think I could pull 3 or 4 videos out of just this topic alone. So that's what I would recommend if someone's looking to get super specific and go into depth about issues that people are having on their home and generate more leads, whether it's in Facebook groups or organic.
And I agree with you on that. And I also feel that you should also define, or you should also figure out that what kind of content or what format your audience resonates to. Let's say that what I have noticed in Facebook groups, particularly, text posts perform better than videos or the other things because people kind of read text post. My question to you is that you are saying that you have to share the experiences that you are having at different homes or at different roofs and the questions that you have in the groups or at the place where your audience actually is. Should someone also invest time in figuring out what kind of or what format of content their audience wants to see? Like they want to see text posts, reels, maybe some carousel posts, pictures.
I think it's video is definitely the dominant form of content on any platform for the
Mhm,
most part, unless maybe LinkedIn. But it's good to diversify it and also show off your projects. I do carousel posts where I'm sitting there, I'm taking photos of homes and I'm posting it. And that's another thing. That's when I rely on my copywriting to tell the story because at the end of the day, a carousel post is 3 or 4 pictures And yeah, people might think that they look good, but it's easily scroll through. However, if I sit down and I break down the copywriting aspect of it and I go into depth on the color that I use, how it's working with the brick, the new gutters that we put up, how it's working and making a full, well-balanced home and how it looks. Going back to it, that's a completely different audience than everyone else, but that's that HGTV audience that I'm trying to connect with. But some people sit there and refer to a shingle as a gray. You want gray shingles? I got gray shingles for you, Miss Jones. But for me, Miss Jones, I got four different gray shingles for you. This is driftwood. It's a gray based shingle with underlying tones of tan and brown, right? It's
Hmm.
a extremely versatile. I think it's going to work with your brick, your shutters out front, and really bringing it in and making an experience. Once again, adding depth to what you're talking about. That's the most important thing that you can do with any form of content that you're creating.
Are there any rules or any tools or anything that you have learned specifically about copywriting and that you would like to share with other people so they can learn that how to write content or how to write text that actually grabs attention in the roofing industry particularly?
The first line should read as a headline, if that makes sense. I think referring back to some of these would make it a little bit easier to talk about, but having a headline that catches the attention is one of the most important things that you do, whether it's text in a video or if it's the first line of a caption, right? And honestly, it should really only be 5 to 7 words, because you got to think when it's coming up on the feed. This is getting really technical, but when it comes up on the feed, you're seeing that
Hmm.
first line and that's about it. So that first line has to be so good and so attention grabbing that when people see that first line, they click and they're reading the full caption, they'll click on the post and continue to engage with it, right? I am a copywriting geek, and I think that there's a lot of tools that are now available that weren't available in the past, like ChatGPT, where you can sit there and you can prompt in a certain manner and sit there and take a caption that did very well for you in the past, right? Like a lot of times I'll sit there and I'll say, act as a Instagram expert that specializes in viral language and meta SEO, right?
Hmm.
And I'll say this caption got me 25,000 views on Instagram, right?
Hmm.
Is there any way that you could make it more viral worthy, right? And then I'll sit there and copy and paste the caption. And then it'll rewrite it. And I'm not kidding you, Foz. I've done this a couple times and just I didn't necessarily love the caption, but I
Hmm.
just said, you know what? Let's see what happens. 63,000 views later. That new post just knocked it out of the park for me. So, like I said, if you struggle with copywriting, there's tools to help you out with it. I still organically generate my original caption, right? Like I
Hmm.
usually like to come up with a first line and then the body, and I'll sit there and I'll take it and I'll put it into Chat GPT and audit it and just say, "Hey, how does this sound if Chat writes it?" If I put in that prompt and it spits it out, sometimes I'll say, you know what, I like my original one better. I'm going to go with that this time. But then sometimes I'll switch it up and go with something else. So that's the beauty of the era that we're in right now with technology is that there's so much assistance that can be provided. It can hinder a lot of people, but
Hmm.
also if you can utilize it right way, it can help you shine to your audiences, but also help you become more authentic.
If I go to your profile and I see a post that got you 160,000 views or 160,000 clicks or anything, I can just copy that post and I can paste it to ChatGPT and I can ask ChatGPT that what did Andrew do in this post that I can do as well and that I can apply to my content ideas. And a specific portion of using ChatGPT and things like that, Andrew, is that most people are not creating content. They want ChatGPT to create the content. Just like you said that you give ChatGPT your organic content, like you have a draft or a post or anything that you can give it to ChatGPT or any AI tool, and then it can refine it. And sometimes you don't like the output that it gives you. You maybe go with the original content, and that is exactly what I do as well, because I feel when you totally rely on ChatGPT or any AI tool, your content just starts sounding like everyone else. It has the same kind of format or a same kind of sequence. I hope you are getting my point. Like someone can
Yeah.
easily tell that this is entirely generated by AI.
Yes, 100%. With Sora, the different Sora videos that are coming out, and I've have yet to generate one video through Sora or any video generating
Same.
apps. I just haven't had the time to sit down there and do it the way that I want. But I do think that there's a point for satire that people can execute, get millions of views on for their face or their brand. I think Logan Paul is a great example of this. You think it's random that you're seeing all these videos of Logan Paul getting hit by a truck or Logan Paul putting on makeup and acting like a girl or Logan Paul. But what I'm getting at here is Logan Paul is probably paying someone to put those videos out, or maybe people are doing it naturally. I don't know. But Milwaukee, that's another great brand that you're seeing all these crazy ideas of ridiculous products that Milwaukee would never offer, right? But you're seeing Milwaukee pop up on your screen nonstop with promoting these products through Sora that's obviously generated, but it's just showing off the brand Milwaukee. So Milwaukee being in the background of this crazy product that would never exist, that's still brand recognition that's getting millions of views for the brand. Get what I mean? And so I do think that there's a point for satire and
Mhm.
utilizing it in a way that's creative and different to kind of get awareness, get millions of views, and you're seeing it with people like Logan Paul or Jake Paul um, and Milwaukee brands like Milwaukee and different things like that.
Do you feel that in the future people would crave genuine content created by genuine people like real humans, because we will have so much rush of this AI generated content and videos, that my personal belief is that this natural content or this organic content will become premium content for exclusive people, and the rest of the audience will be left for this AI generated content. And that is a kind of future where we are heading to. What do you feel about that?
100%. That's my bet, clearly. Like, I only generate my own content as of right now. Not saying that I wouldn't sit there and play with different ideas, but I think if I were to bring AI in, it would be in a ridiculous fashion. Like it would have to be done in a certain way to where I feel like it would be a little bit out there, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it would have comedy related to it or something ridiculous. It wouldn't be something so serious. And that's the thing. It's like when I sit there and I see someone putting out constant, like I can tell it's not them creating the content, but it's just them speaking, right? And they're putting out content, and it's serious content. It's obvious that it's AI. Like there's no question about it, right? But it's just like I don't want to watch it. Get it off my feed. It's just I pay attention to what I do when I sit there and I consume content. And it's like if I see something that's generated by Sora that's funny
Mhm.
or outrageous, I interact with it, right? I think it's funny. I'll send it to, one of my buddies or whatever the case is. But if it's serious, I just scroll through it. It's not worth my time. So I think you have to look at any piece of content that you're creating as if you are the consumer.
Yes, and you know what I feel, Andrew, is that so many people are trying to force AI so that it looks real, and that collides with the core value of content creation, that is being authentic. Like you want that video by Sora or by any other AI tool to portray that this is me, not that this is an AI avatar of me or this is an AI generated character of me. And I am thinking to create AI videos as well. And how I am thinking of this is that I will create one version of me that is original and one version of me that is AI generated version of my character, and we are having a conversation, or I will clearly tell that this is AI generated Faz and this is real me. And my point
Mhm.
of discussing this with you is that if you do not be authentic with your audience, maybe 5 years down the road or maybe next year, they remove this Sora watermark from these videos, and we do not have the ability to see that if this video is actually AI generated or if it is a real human. And maybe 10 years from now, something else is introduced, and that is totally remarkable as well. But if you do not have your core values, and what I mean by this is that if you do not define your path Do you feel that you are more of a sort of in a position to chase virality, to ignore your core value of being authentic and chasing things like that madly instead of focusing on what is working and focusing on delivering value the right way? And in the right way, if these things come handy, you incorporate them. If they don't, you just leave them and still be authentic.
I 100% agree with you. It's like we might be heading towards a society where like people crave that individual interaction, where like people might pay to be a part of a mastermind just to know they authentically are talking to you and getting your feedback rather than
Mhm,
getting it from someone, getting it from an AI source. Listen, I'm not against it. Like, I think that it can be used in certain ways, but also I want people to know it's me creating the videos. And when I'm shooting a drone video or whether it's an on-site video, that's me behind the camera. And I take pride that I edit the videos and I've had people come to me, people that I
mhm,
hold in high regard and say, "Hey man, you got to outsource it. Outsource this. Outsource it. Get it off your plate. It'll open up your time to do something else." And it's like I've paid people, $200-300 to do their version of editing my videos, and it doesn't hit the same way. You know, you can tell it was done by someone else. So I want people to know that I'm the one genuinely creating the content. I'm the one that they're genuinely connecting with. If they write me a
mhm,
DM, I'm the one responding to it. And I would say that's why I'm so successful on these platforms because I I get 5 to 10 phone calls a week from other contractors around the nation, and sometimes it's questions about the products I promote, but also sometimes it's just sitting there talking and having a friendship, you know? And it's like that's what people are craving in the digital world that they're not getting right now is that authentic connection of like, I talked to a guy for an hour and 45 minutes yesterday, and he's coming
mhm.
to RoofCon to hang out with me, So, I told him I would be at the IRE at RoofCon, and after an hour and 45 minutes, he's like, "Dude, I'm coming to RoofCon." He's like, "I'm buying you dinner. We're gonna have a good time." And I'm like, "I'll buy you dinner too." Like, come on out, man. Love to meet you in person. And that's the society that we're in. And I see it all the time where, people either charge for a phone call or, it's so granted, not saying that I couldn't charge for my time or I couldn't do
Mhm.
anything like that, but it's just like I'm fine with having a normal phone call too. Like, sure, I can unlock the world for you, but also I'm not afraid to have a normal conversation with anyone. And that's what I think that's missing across the board, people, the reason why iShow Speed is so successful at streaming is because he goes to these different places across the United States and he's in the thick of it with real people that love and admire him. He shows up to a place and a whole crowd comes to a mall and he's not afraid to sit there and have conversations with people and interact with people. And so that's what people are craving more than anything is that individual connection. And it takes a lot to get people to reach out to you to have that individual connection. So why wouldn't you sit there and nurture it and spend time with those people, give them real advice that they can apply to their everyday life? And that turns someone that admires you into a fan for life.
Amazing. And you know what? We are living in a world where people are charging to go out with you on a morning walk, and that clearly tells that people are craving this human to human connection. And speaking of being genuine and having this human to human connection, do you feel that a lot of roofing contractors, when they show up online and they want to be authentic, they portray themselves as someone who they are not? And a lot of times when it comes out that they were not being their true self and they were doing things that they are not supposed to be doing, everything that they have built just collapses. So how can someone be authentic and just prevent these things?
Of course, you see the fake gurus of the world, they like crumble and collapse, but listen, I get it. People build up characters around who they are. But at some point in time, like I said, I think the people that can control their egos, a lot of it is people where they have these outlandish egos that they have to keep up with for themselves, for their own individual insecurities. And I think one of the things is you have to sit there and you got to keep that in check. I think a lot of times why those people crumble and fall is because they build up these personas about the people that they think they should be. and what they deserve in
Okay.
life. But that's the ego speaking. You have to sit there and say, hey, listen, where was I 5 years ago? Where would I have liked someone to talk to me 5 years
Mhm.
ago and help guide me through my journey in roofing sales? Yes. Right. And rather than thinking you're high and mighty, think of yourself as where was I 5 years ago? And how grateful am to be in the position I am today? You know, I have so many things to be grateful for that's happening in my life right now. And
Mhm.
it all developed around the fact that I was always willing to do a podcast with someone that had very little viewers, or having conversations with a contractor that's a one-man operation in Philadelphia, and spend 2.5 hours on the phone with him and tell him how to improve his business, right? Those individual reactions are, and I still talk to those people till this day. And so you got to be in the thick of it. And I've had this conversation with literally friends and family, of like, hey, listen, yes, you are 100% fantastic at what you do, but you have to sit there and a part of be a part of putting into the community that you want to build and nurture it. If you don't want to nurture a community, you can sit there and you might have one or five people, a couple people that are interested in doing business with you, or you can sit there and you can nurture it and you can have 5,000 people that will go to war for. You know what I mean? And that's the reality of it, is like people are so quick to sit there and say, I need to charge for this, I need to charge for that. And the great thing about me is I've always sold roofs and made a good living doing that. So my time, I can always make a living selling roofs. I don't need to charge people, outlandish amounts of money for consulting. And I think over time that has paid dividends for me in the social media space. Now I got people buying pallets of Luminale, just because they support my content, they love the product, and they're like, you know what? I love Andrew. I love this product. I'm buying pallets of it. You know, and that's how you truly become an influencer in any space. Is like you have to sit there and be in the dirt with your peers. And that's one of the great things about me, is I can sit there and walk people through what I do on a day-to-day basis because I'm signing up roofs on a day-to-day basis. And it's getting to the point now where I'm successful outside of roofing, and now selling roofs is kind of just for fun. And it's crazy how it all works out in the end, but I'm glad that I didn't grab for the money. I didn't go for the money right away. I always said to myself, if this doesn't work out, I can always sell roofs at the end of the day. I don't need no one to admire me or want want to be a part of my community. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to selling roofs. But you know what I will have? I will be able to edit videos really good, understand how to shoot content. So when my kid gets to high school and he's playing football, I can make him one great highlight video after another and get him a college scholarship. So it's always been about the journey for me rather than the monetary gain.
If you have 5,000 people who are willing to go to a war for you, and a few months later they come to this realization that you are a totally different person than who you portray online, or that who you just show them that you are, and in reality you are not that person, you are faking your identity. Those 5,000 people, you are doing such an injustice to them by being fake. So do you believe that someone, before they should start creating content, because no one knows that which video goes viral these days and gets you thousands or millions of views, so do you believe that before creating content creation, someone should work on their character as well? Or if they do not want to work on their character, then they need to show what they are doing after these roofing jobs as well, or what is their life
Yeah,
besides this roofing too?
I always tell people, like, Masters Roofing is a great company. I just get to show it off every day. The reality is you only see one perspective when there's so much more going on in the background. We build 3 roofs a day each and every day, but it's a great company. And it goes back to when my father started it. My father is a great person of moral and character. But guess what? He doesn't want to be on camera. He
Mhm.
doesn't want to talk about his business. He wants to sit there and run a proper roofing company. So there's some people that I think are they want they want to do content creation, right? And I think you also have to be that person. If you're not that person, you got to hire that person that wants to be it, right? Wants to be the face of the brand, right? And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to content creation, you can't be going back to your point, you can't sit there and be a fake guru. You know, you can't sit there and have a compromised moral belief or character and sit there and fool people. At the end of the day, at some point in time, this is not a day-to-day thing. It's a marathon, right? It's forever. You know, I plan on creating content today and I'm not stopping, you know? And so that being said, it's like, yeah, you do have to operate with integrity. You know, when I go to these expos and different things like that, sure, I'll have a couple drinks with people. I'm not against having drinks, but I'm not going out and doing anything and compromising my character. So, but I'll go to dinner, have fun, and at the end of the night, call it a night. And that's where I think that's a maturity thing more than anything. You go to some of these conferences, you got people, in their 40s and 50s acting like they're 21. It's just like, come on, man. I mean, at the end of the day, each and every person is their own person and is on their own journey.
Yes, yes. Speaking of this and the psychology behind this, do you feel that people find it easier to fake themselves because they are seeing everyone, people like you and people like others, they are getting this recognition in the industry or as a content creator, and they feel that it is easier to fake myself and get views instead of just building myself and building my character. And my point behind this is that maybe I am doing some things that I shouldn't be doing, or I have a past that I do not want to tell people, or that I do not want to show up online. But I have decided to be a content creator, and now I sit and record a video that this was my past, these are the things that I have done, but I want a genuine connection with all of you people. So from now, day one of this journey is that I am leaving this path and I will be becoming a better person with all of you. Now, what you are doing is that even if you are not faking yourself, you are at least telling them that I want to improve, and you are taking responsibility of the things that you have done. You are not faking anything, and you are making yourself accountable as well at the same time.
Yes, and also I think it's what what I struggle with and what I'm looking forward to getting more into, and I think it's going to be in a long form setting, like bringing back a podcast, having genuine conversation with people that fly into Memphis and willing to fly into Memphis and having conversations, but is just being able to show who you are and being able to show who you are as a person and talk about the hardships in your life, the things that the different mountains that you had to climb that made you the person you are, right? That's what people connect with. When you build up these characters and these ideas of who you are and you're not being your authentic self, you're pushing your audience further away because they say, you know what, that guy's not relatable. And so I want to get to a point, and I'm in the process of buying a house, and I'm going to get a room big enough to have a podcast
Wow.
studio in, and I'm going to invite people to come and have conversations, and it's gonna be different than what you normally see on a podcast. It's not going to be about business all the time. Like, sure, there'll be sections that we get in, topics that we get onto where we go in depth about things,
Hmm.
but I want to get to know people outside of their perception on because that's what when I sit there and I listen to podcasts, whether it's Joe Rogan or Candace Owens, I relate to the people that are authentically trying to get to the truth of what they're talking about and just having normal conversations. And there's some conversations that absolutely blow my mind. That's one thing about Joe Rogan. When I sit there and
Hmm.
listen to some of his podcasts,
Hmm.
is like there will be people I have no clue who they are, and I click on their podcast, and by the time I get done listening to it, it absolutely just changed everything about the way I think about things. He had this guy on, if you don't mind for a second, I'm going to look him up,
Oh,
but
yes, yes.
he had this guy on. It was a wonderful podcast. Palmer Luckey, this guy who made the Oculus Rift, right? The
Hmm.
Oculus, the VR headset. And he did a
Hmm.
podcast with Joe Rogan, and it just absolutely blew my mind. One of the best podcasts I ever listened to. But it was just a normal conversation, normal flow to things. And so that's what I think what people are missing is that you can sit here and think that you're perfect, right? And everything you touch is gold. right? Everything that you do is great, but that's not the reality of the situation. And I think the people that really know what they're doing can sit there and pick that apart and be like, this guy has no clue what he's talking about. I do that. I won't sit there and tell anyone, but I can sit there
Mhm.
and have a conversation at a conference, or I can sit there and go to speaking engagement or whatever the case is, and I can sit there and have a 30-minute conversation with someone until, yeah, he's bluffing. He doesn't know what he's doing, or he's exaggerating the truth. I won't sit there and bust the people out on it, but at the end of the day, when you're in it long enough and you've been doing it, you can authentically be you, you know? And that's what it is at the end of the day is you can sit here and build up a persona or an idea of who you are, but what really people connect with is if you're good at your job, good at what you're doing, and you're a real person.
Yes, and what I have consumed from you is that you are saying that people fear to show their weakness, and maybe there are two factors behind this that I feel are there. Maybe you can correct me. Number one is that everyone around me tells us that you do not have to be vulnerable or you do not have to be weak in front of people. That is the first factor. The second factor is that we have this Hollywood around us, we have all these movies, we have all these things that are perfect, like these actors and actresses. When they are on screens, they are perfect, and we think that this is the life that is their reality, but in reality that is not the life they are living. So these are the two major contributors to the weakness that we have in showing up and just allowing our natural self to flow. And that brings me back to the point where you mentioned earlier in the interview that people have this fear of camera. Do you feel that that fear is somehow related to these two factors as well?
Yeah, I think our people are afraid to put themselves out there 110%, but I never struggle with that personally. It's just like I am who I am. And I even inside of the home, I think what makes people do business with you or what closes deals for me at least is just being a normal person and being relatable. Like I do slur my words. I'm not the
Mhm.
most proper or the best sales guy out there. I didn't go to college, but being able to sit there and read people and just having that individual interaction is what I feel like is one of my superpowers. And so I think for anyone being scared on camera, no one cares at the end of the day. No one really cares. Either they're going to swipe through it or they're going to watch it. But at the end of the day, I can sit there and post a piece of content from 6 months ago. And half of the time, the people who are seeing it, they're seeing it for the first time, anyways, or they're seeing it again and they just don't even recognize it. That's how irrelevant we all are at the end of the day. Going back to it, ego is what stops people from creating,
Mhm.
right? This ego that you have to be this person is what stops you from executing your game plan and putting content out. And what I'm creating today is never going to be perfect. Any video that I post, I always think it could be better. But guess what? It's 10 o'clock at night and I got to get it out. I ain't got time to be perfect today. I ain't got time to be perfect tomorrow. But guess what? Every day that I'm creating, I'm getting better at what I do. And guess what? It still gets thousands and thousands of views, but that's because I've done it consistently over and over again. But not one piece of content that I put out do I feel was perfect. And I've been doing it forever. So if I feel that way,
Mhm.
then I think anyone else should know that it's not going to be perfect. And most of the time when you first start, it's going to be ugly and you're not going to like it. Just post it anyway and just evolve to the next day.
If anyone is watching this video and they fear camera as well, what I can tell them is that you might agree with me that you have to calculate the opportunity cost of not doing the video. Like just you said that people have short attention spans and you will be swiped away. Let's just say you create a terrible video. Now, what is at stake? Most worst outcome of this will be that someone looks at your video and they just swipes away. They just swipe away. But the best outcome of this can be you get thousands of people or millions of people that like the video, that click the like button. So you are staking that opportunity against this little opportunity because people don't even remember. I do not remember the last 10 reels I watched, and I hope so you don't remember as well. So you are
Mhm.
taking that chance of getting those views and getting that recognition just because you think that you have to chase perfection.